All right, today the topic is get back up. And I went to a friend of mine's, with a friend of mine to her child's soccer game and noticed that most of the parents were yelling encouragement to their child and to all the other kids on the field. And they're yelling out, good job, or watch out on your left, watch out for that person, or get up, get up, get up. And some parents would even move with the action just to make sure that they were heard. And but while watching an old home movie of our family, I realized that I too was that parent running up and down the sidelines, loudly speaking words of encouragement. And I was trying to say just the right thing to help that child achieve peak performance at that moment, even if they were 8. And this usually works for only a few years. And then I thought, what happens? And as our kids get older, they're usually less and less likely to enjoy these parental antics. And what was once welcome, or at least tolerated, we become embarrassing because of what the child thought others thought. And like, Mom, you're embarrassing me. Dad, stop it. Mom, I can hear you all the way at the other end of the field. Maybe some of you have heard those things. Meaning, what the kids really mean is, all my friends can hear you all the way at the other end of the field. And this turning point of thought is our topic today. And we're going to see this is the same thing that Adam went through way back in the day. We're going to see how we as humans, true humans, traded God's encouragement for embarrassment. And we traded great words of inspiration for fear of what other people thought. And if you think this is a simple problem with a simple fix, you may want to think again, because the world is run by this. And all self-help books, every parent or counselor or judge or coach or teacher or good friend throughout all time has been trying to encourage us to shine with the greatness of what they see in us. A lot of times, it's easier for you to see greatness in somebody else than they can see in themselves, especially a child or a family member. And I'll be willing to bet that every one of your deep-rooted fears or problems can be traced back to that turning point of thought, the moment you cared more about what other people thought than what you dreamed of doing or being. That was our fall, and it's time to get back up. So what was lost? What did we lose? So we've all been taught many things about the fall of man, and so many things that our heads should implode because of the vacuum caused by the illogic of religion. And many of us have been taught varying things as to what caused this fall. And I'm not going to get into all of them. But the effect of the fall still resonates today. And it's not sin. You see, the first act of mankind after the fall defines the effect of the fall. I'll explain. So I'm going to go back to Genesis chapter 3. We're going to read 6 through 11. I'll do it from the King James. And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof, and did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat. And the eyes of them both were opened, and they knew that they were naked. And they sewed fig leaves together, and made themselves aprons. And they heard the voice of the Lord God walking in the garden in the cool of the day. And Adam and his wife hid themselves from the presence of the Lord God amongst the trees of the garden. And the Lord called unto Adam and said unto him, Where are you? Where are you? Now he knew where he was. Verse 10, and he said, I heard thy voice in the garden, and I was afraid because I was naked, and I hid myself. And he said, Who told thee that thou was naked? That's what God said. Who told you were naked? Now, had that thought ever entered Adam's mind before that point? No. No. Here's the turning point. And if you can understand this, this will help you through any of your difficulties. And so let's reread the end of verse 10. I was afraid because I was naked and I hid myself. Afraid, naked, hid. I was afraid because I was naked, so I hid. Afraid, naked, and hid are the key words of any fall. See, fear is what binds us. Fear of what others think enslaved the world's population by stifling people's souls. Look how religion drives people to do crazy stuff, or politics. Religion, politics, basically the same thing. And when we hide our true selves, we hide our light. And as a consequence, we get no true work done. Adam stopped working. When you stop working, you stop reaching your goals. You stop reaching your potential. You know, Adam turned inward. He hid. He didn't want himself to be exposed of what he thought the other creature thought about him, the shiny one. See, no true work will get done if we don't let our light shine. And one of the points of this teaching, it dovetails with last week. It's live your call. You know, who are you? If there were nobody else on earth, what would you still do? Would you still go for your run? Then you're a runner. You see, would you still ride your bike? You're a bikeist, a cyclist. You know, would you still work in your garden? Then you're a gardener. Would you still work on your house? Yeah. Would you still drive your truck around? Would you still teach? You know, what would you do? Would you still go shopping? You won't have to buy anything then. You know, but you get the point. I mean, if you and just a few people were around, would you try to be the best you possible? Would you try to bring out who you really were? If all your need was met, if you never had to worry about money or anything, could you be exactly who you were supposed to be? Yeah. It'd be easy, right? That's how Adam lived. Everything was supplied. The funny thing is, doesn't the Bible say it is for us too? We'll get to another point in a minute. But what happens is with fear, we stop working toward the goal of who we really are. And that's what Adam did. And that's the true essence of the fall. And it took thousands of years to get people back. Jesus Christ was the first person who didn't look inward. He kept his view outward. He knew what he wanted to do and he headed that way no matter what was going to happen around him. I remember the exact moment I began to care about what others thought. I remember my fall from the utter happiness of childhood and into the self-limiting world outside. I remember that exact point. And I was a carefree 4-year-old in what they then called nursery school. And now it's called preschool. And I was asked to be a clown in a school production. And my mom handmade me and put a lot of time into making this colorful, crazy clown outfit. And it was colorful, it was bold, and it was perfect for me. I loved this. I couldn't wait to be the clown at this production. And another kid and I were supposed to clown around and make people laugh between all the little skits. And I can still picture myself and feel what it was like waiting to perform in front of all those wonderful parents and aunts and uncles and grandparents. And I thought, and I can still remember, these people are going to laugh. You know, they're going to think this is funny. And they probably picked us because we were probably the class clowns. And so we both walked up next to the low stage and ready to cut loose with our best. And we were going to make people laugh and smile like they hadn't for a long time. At least this is what was going on in my 4-year-old freckled head. And my compatriot walked out on the stage, looked at the people, and froze. So I looked over at him, then I looked out to the people, and for the first time in my little life, I felt foolish. And for the first time in my life, I was aware of what I thought others must have thought about me. We never performed that night. And I allowed what I thought others thought to shred me from within. And that was my fall. I was never the same after that moment. You know, it's taken the better part of my entire life to regain self. Because who you were as a child, you weren't born a blank slate that somebody else, etched in the way they wanted. Your personality was right there. If you've been a parent, you know what I'm talking about. They have that personality. And then you see that personality come back at times throughout their life. And we really wish our children would get back to who they were. Even if they were a little, clowny, you see. You want them to be who they are, right? Don't we all want our kids to be that way? Don't you want your child to live out their gift, to let that light that's in them shine? Well, that's what Adam was supposed to do. But he traded it for that embarrassment. It sounds simple, but this drives people, and it limits us. We're afraid of what others are going to think. We're afraid about what it's going to look if we actually took the word on, at its own thing. I remember one time I was living in New Jersey, and I had a friend who was a school teacher, and he called me up and he said, "I can't get my car started. Can you come and help me get it started?" Because I was the most mechanical one, of whatever group I was in at that time. And so I drove to Newark, to a really inner city, lousy section to this school. And I tried to get this car started. And this car was as big as a boat. And it wouldn't do anything. It wouldn't turn over. It was just dead. I put jumper cables on. I did everything I could possibly do. And then the sun started going down, and we started getting surrounded by people from the neighborhood. And they weren't real close to us yet, but I knew once it got dark, it may not be a good scene. And so I thought, well, the heck with it all. All I know to do right now is to pray. And so my friend and I were standing in front of this big car, and I just leaned over on it on the great big radiator, and I said, "God, you got to get this thing started because we need to get the heck out of here." But I didn't say heck. And and as I was praying, the starter started going, wham, 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 wham. There was nobody in the car. And then all of a sudden it went vroom, 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 and started gunning. There was nobody in the car. And I said to the guy who owned the car, I said, "I don't know what the hell happened." I said, "But let's get in here and get the heck out of here." So he hopped in that car. I followed him all the way home to his house in Bayonne. And the car, once he parked it and turned it off, it never started again. Now, I could have been embarrassed to pray for a car, you see. I could have said, what will everybody looking at me think? But I didn't, because I thought it wasn't smart to stay there any longer or to leave a broken car. And so you take God at His word. If He says you can do something, then do it. Are miracles possible? Yeah. Was that a miracle? I don't know. Maybe it just happened to everything came together at that point. I don't know. I'll call it one. You see, it's just, I believe we can get back to being the people we're designed to be. The devil, the enemy, the serpent, whatever you want to call the force that keeps you from being you. The force that keeps you from being the true you. And trust me, there is one. You can call it anything you want. It doesn't matter. It keeps us from our potential. It's the energy that dims our light, our art, our inspiration. He, it, she, whatever it is, knew exactly what she, he, it was doing when it played this game back in the original garden. Humans were observed to be the only animals that wax introspective. A bird isn't going, "Gosh, I wonder if my red breast is as red as Jim's red breast." You see, I wonder if my paws are have the better claws than the other cat over there. You see, I wonder if my ears are as well tuned, or my eyes are as good as an eagle. You see, birds, they don't think that stuff. They just go, they know that all their needs supplied and they go get it. It's really not supposed to be that any harder than that for us. Now they work, and I'll get to an example in a minute. It's not like they just lay around and wait for somebody to shove a piece of corn in their lazy fat beak, you see. I mean, it doesn't work that way. I mean, look at a cow in the field. They look like they're doing nothing, but they're working all day. They're eating all day. A deer browses all night, most of it. You see, I mean, things work. Humans were observed to be the only animal, like I said, that waxes introspective. And that's our crack in our hull. That's what gets exposed under pressure. And you'll find out that most of the pressure that we have isn't coming from everybody else. Now, there's some bad stuff going on in the world. Oh, yeah. But is it as bad to you as what you do to yourself inside your head? The answer is no. We've trained ourselves to put ourselves down. We've trained ourselves to dim our light. We've trained ourselves to be a lesser version, a shadow version of who we are. Stop it. Stop it. There's no point. We humans, we further suck the life out of ourselves and the light out of ourselves by continuing this self-deprecating process with no help from anybody else. You know, the great enemy was genius in what it got Adam and Eve to do. Genius. Whatever caused that fall. But the effect of that fall was they were afraid, they felt exposed, and they hid. They were afraid, they felt exposed, so they hid. And what I want to do here is let's stop hiding. You know, let's let our light shine. Let's let who we really are shine. Let's be the people we're designed to be. Nobody else can be you. That job's already taken. You see, our fall happened when we're afraid to be exposed to those of judgmental eyes. And I'm sure the serpent, or whatever it was, the shiny one, the text says, was quite judgmental. Did Adam feel judged by God? No. Did God expect something out of him? Yeah. Do this, but don't do this. He didn't go, oh God, don't want to. But the devil somehow made him feel like he was missing out on something. That all his need wasn't really supplied. Something's wrong with you, man. And so he started, well, I guess I can't clown around anymore. Life is serious. Life is hard. God had to drive him out of the garden and make him work. You see, because he hid. He stopped being the person that he was designed to be. That's still the problem. That victim mentality, you know, or waiting for somebody else to make it happen for you. Let your light shine before men. Let your light shine. This is what happened at the beginning. And we've been trying so hard, everybody has, for years and years and years and century and millennia, to get people to the point they can actually, you know, find their self. People try it all kinds of ways. They get drunk. You know, they do drugs. They commit adultery. They do anything to try to figure out how to, you know, how to find who they really are. And there's always going to be some trick out there that'll pull you off to even a worse path. It's just the way life is. I'm not telling you anything new. Read Galatians 5, the works of the flesh. You see, we hid ourselves from working our calling, you know, from working our gift, from letting our light shine. Or in my case, as a 4-year-old, from being a clown. It's weird that still bothers me, that I didn't perform. Isn't that crazy? I can still picture this stupid little outfit, you see? But I never once ever thought about what anybody thought about until that point. And it froze me. People are frozen in jobs that they hate. They're frozen in relationships. They don't know how to make them better. They're frozen in so many things because of fear. Because they're not living their true calling. Like I said last week, Adolf Hitler, his whole childhood and youth, he wanted to be an artist. He went to art school. But he wasn't really that good. He was good, but not great. You see? And what would this world be today if he had have lived his true calling as an artist? In some ways, it was easier for him to start World War II than to live out his calling. There's always resistance, folks. There's always avoidance. There's always something that's going to stop you from your true calling. How much different would the world be if we could all live and be the people we're designed to be? Oh my gosh. The prisons would empty out. Psychologists would have to find a new line of work. Everybody would be doing the job they love doing. We're afraid we're going to be exposed, so we hid within ourselves. That's the fall. That was my fall as a young clown. That's our fall. We can't see ourselves making it in business. You know, we can't see ourselves. We keep thinking all those things that we did stupid in the past, they're still hanging on to us. No, they're not. Only you allow them to hang on there. Take them off that pegboard of the brain. Put up there what you want. Be the person you dreamed of being. Why not? Start now. Start one step. Start 1%. Do a little bit more each day toward that goal. Now the topic, getting back up. How do we get back up after our fall? Getting back up after our fall is difficult and time-consuming and takes more effort than we're used to giving. Because it's easier to just go with the flow. To do what everybody else expects you to do. Do you have to think? No. You know, how hard is it to lose weight if you're really heavy? It's hard. I know a woman who's going to go on a hike. She's in my networking group. Now she's a tiny little thing. And she said, Mark, you know, she's asking me all these things she should do to walk. You know, and I said, you know, about socks and shoes and poles and all this. She goes, but I need to drop 5 pounds. I said, 5 pounds? I said, that's easy. She says, not for me. You know, for her, 5 pounds would be like maybe 20 pounds for me. She's a tiny little thing. And so she's given herself a year to lose 5 pounds. A year! But that's her goal. She'll do it too. I know this gal. She's going to spend a year and to lose this 5 pounds. And it's funny, but getting back up is difficult, time-consuming, and it takes a lot of effort. How hard is it to get back in shape once you've let it go? You think, God, I'm never going to get back. But you do if you stick with it, right? You know, this teaching came together with me. I was doing a 17-mile run, half of it up Pikes Peak and half back down last Thursday. And I always like to think about because I'm getting ready for the Pikes Peak Marathon. And so as I was coming down, I was thinking, okay, what am I going to teach on? And then I thought, gosh, you know, what really was the fall of man? And what really happened? What's the result of that? And then it just started all going through my head at that point. You know, there was no phone calls, no nothing. So it's easy just to think and think and think. You see? But how hard is it for people to quit smoking? Most of us have seen it's hard. You know, or drinking if they had a drinking problem, or to get your finances together if you've never had them together in the first place. It's hard. It's harder work than you've ever done. How about to finish college or improve a relationship or to become successful at anything? You know, they're all hard. It takes an entire life change to change an entire life. We got to change everything to change everything. Is it easy? No. Losing weight really means you have to change everything in your life. It's a philosophy change. There's something else going on in the head, or you wouldn't stay that way. You don't want to be that way. That's why you've been on 14 diets. You understand what I'm saying? Quit smoking. People try patches, pills, this, that, and they try everything. And then eventually they make their mind up, or they keep quitting, and eventually they make it. Finances is the same thing. Just because you were raised poor doesn't mean you got to stay poor. Just because you had a lousy adult time and weren't able to really make it doesn't mean you can't. You can do whatever you want to do. But you got to set your mind. Like I said before, the two biggest prayers are, and the two goals that are on everybody's list are lose weight, get in shape, and make more money. Lose weight, get in shape, make more money. And everybody has those. Look at your goal list. It's on there. I guarantee. Look at your resolution list that you write every January. It's on there every year since you've been an adult. It's always on there. You see? So, you get the point. You see, the change is worth it, both to you and to the whole creation. You're a gift to the creation. What's your gift? What's supposed to shine? Who are you really supposed to do? What are we really supposed to be? That's our gift. And everybody knows it. People think, I don't know what it is. Yeah, you do know. You see how people respond to you. You see how you fit in society. You see, when you're really on with somebody, you see how you touch that person or that group. We all know, but it's hard to stay in it. It's worth it. You're amazingly special. You are a gift. And if we put in the work, we're going to let our light shine, and then God's going to pick up the slack. God supplies our need, but we have to go get it. Or you can flip it around. You start going get it, God's going to supply the need. I don't care which way it goes. It works. I don't care how you think. If you think, I got to go find it, or as I move, I'm going to get it. I mean, most positive thinking gurus all say, if you keep moving consistently, you're going to reach your goal. Providence is going to intercede. The law of magnetism, whatever your books are, you're going to attract stuff as you move towards your goal, especially if you're living your light, letting your light shine. In 2013, I wrote, quote, I'm sure you've all heard about the bar-tailed godwit. And this bird has the longest known non-stop flight of any migratory bird. They fly without landing or stopping to eat for 7,000 miles. They fly direct from northern Eurasia and Alaska to New Zealand, and each bird loses half their body weight en route. And one tagged female bird was tracked by satellite while she flew non-stop for 9 days to cover 7,258 miles. That's over 800 miles a day, folks. You don't even like to drive that much in one day. And that is their expected energy expenditure. That's the energy output God requires of them in order to have their physical need met. They have to fly 7,000 miles twice per year nonstop in order to get to their happy feeding grounds. How far are you willing to fly? How much energy are you willing to expend to really reach your goals? To really get your prayers answered? To fill your bucket list? How much energy? That's how far you're going to go. How much energy are we willing to expend to reach our life goals, to find our health, to find our wealth? Every creature on earth, including us, has an expected energy expenditure in order to have their needs met. End of quote. I thought that fit in with this teaching. See, Jesus understood this. Jesus got it. He had that light bulb moment when he was a child. He totally expected God to supply everything he would ever need, and he was willing to put in the work to get it. Jesus knew that God would supply everything he'd ever need: food, shelter, clothing, if he would just let his light shine. Do what he was called to do. He proved it works. Look at the miracles that happened. The feeding of the 5,000, the feeding of the 4,000, the gold in that fish's mouth, the storms that stopped, the raising people from the dead 3 times in 1 year. You know, he was willing to put the work in to get it. And really, to hell with what other people thought. Did people always think that he was the greatest guy on earth? No. You know, people tried to kill him since he was a toddler. A toddler. Yet he kept learning and growing. If you knew what you were about to do was going to get you killed, but it was the right thing to do, that's a weird juxtaposition of thought. That's hard. Now, a lot of soldiers and Marines and people in the Navy, and I mean in police, as we've seen, firemen, they go into harm's way. You see, they know it's potentially deadly, their job, but they're willing to do it because they feel compelled, they feel called to do it. Teachers, they get abused all the time by the kids, and even more by the administration. Yet they show up every day because they're called to be a teacher. What about a nurse? Think about the diseases and sicknesses they have to be around and touch. Yet they do it because they know they're called to be a nurse or a doctor. You see, he kept learning and growing. He stayed focused on what he was told and what he knew he was supposed to do and to be. Even his mom and brothers thought he was crazy for a time period, and they tried to apprehend him. Isn't that nuts? Even his cousin John the Baptist questioned his calling. At least one time. His apostles all ran and acted wonky when the pressures of death started squeezing in on them, because that pressure always exposes the cracks. Jesus never let his light turn inward. You ever had a flashlight that wouldn't go out and you didn't want to be seen, so you press it up against your body, or something? I mean, that's like, it's a useless light then. It's like hiding your light under a bushel. You want it to shine. I've seen people miles off and you can see their flashlight as they're walking down a hill or something, especially like the little headlamp, and you see it bobbing along. They're miles and miles away. Matthew 5:16, let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify your Father which is in heaven. See, Jesus never let his light turn inward. And he's trying to teach people here in Matthew 5, let your light shine. What's your light? You know what it is. You know what it is. Doesn't mean you got to be a preacher, you see, or a Bible thumper. Doesn't mean you have to go knock on doors or irritate people at the mall. You see? That's not what I'm talking about. What's your light? What's your purpose? What are you good at on this earth? Do it. Do that thing. I once had somebody tell me when I was doing a teaching like this, they said, I'm here to earn money. And I thought, what a jerk. And then I realized, as I've grown, I realized maybe that's so. Because the person's a big giver and a big helper, you see, and maybe that is what they're good at, and I mean, at least partially. And you'll find in your life you may have 2 or 3 things that you do. Maybe different when you're 4. Your gift is different than when you're a teenager, which is different than when you're an adult, which is different than when you're in your golden years. Right? It's different. God knows this. Just live your gift at whatever stage of life, whatever season of life you're in. See, Jesus knew that the life-shrouding result of fear, especially the fear of what other people thought, was a killer. a self-limiter. And wasn't Jesus called the second Adam? This is giving Adam a second chance. It's giving God's man a second chance. Let's see if we can do this again. It took a long time. He learned from Adam's mistakes, and he conquered that enemy within before it had time to mutate. Now, if you look at his teachings and you compare them to the, I was afraid, so I'm naked, I feel naked, so I'm going to hide. And you'll see that so much of his ministry was built to counter those three things, to counter fear, to counter to have people let their light shine, to be exposed, and don't hide that light. So much, you'll see, we'll get to this. Luke chapter 12, we're going to read 22 to 32 from the Message. And he continued this subject with his disciples. Don't fuss about what's on the table at mealtimes, or if the clothes in your closet aren't in fashion. There is far more to your inner life than the food you put in your stomach, more to your outer appearance than the clothes you hang on your body. Look at the ravens, free and unfettered, not tied down to a job description, carefree in the care of God, and you count for more. I love that, carefree in the care of God. What if we could live that way? What if you were totally without a care? Could you live your dream? The answer is yes. And this is the attitude that Jesus wants us to get. We are better off than a raven. You don't see them worrying. You don't see them sweating, wondering where their next meals come from. They just keep looking and pecking, grabbing things off the street. The ravens. You see, around here it's the magpies. You see, that's what we want to get back to. Adam and Eve lived with that ultimate freedom once upon a time. They had no care. They knew God totally took care of them. They let their light shine. They were amazingly beautiful people inside and out. What they said to each other, what they thought about each other. Once you worry about what other people think about you, it's a weird spot, but we all do it. Your hairdo, your clothing, your shoes, your report. You know, the entire Bible is focused on helping us regain that freedom that we all knew until our fall. Mine of which was at 4 years old. Might have been before that, but I don't remember. To regain our true spirituality, to uncover our light, our art, our words, our true selves. That's what God wants. That's the whole point of the Bible. Who are you? What do you want to do with it? Here's how. Verse 25. Has anyone by fussing before the mirror ever gotten taller by so much as an inch? If fussing can't get us to do that, why fuss at all? Walk into the fields and look at the wildflowers. They don't fuss with their appearance. But have you ever seen color and design quite like it? The 10 best dressed men and women in the country look shabby alongside them. If God gives such attention to the wildflowers, most of them never even seen, don't you think that He'll attend to you? Take pride in you. Do His best for you. What I'm trying to do here is to get you to relax, to not be so preoccupied with getting so you can respond to God's giving. People who don't know God and the way He works fuss about these things. But you know both God and how He works. Steep yourself in God reality, God initiative, God provisions, and you'll find all your everyday human concerns will be met. Don't be afraid of missing out. You are my dearest friends. The Father wants to give you the very kingdom itself. What we lost way back in the garden and in the garden of our childhood was our innocent belief that as we put in the necessary work to live out who we're designed to be, that God will supply more than what's necessary. Remember, exceeding abundantly above all that you ask or think? God will supply all our need according to his riches and glory. Remember, God inhabits eternity. He's in your past. He's in the future. Remember that thing I said? The scientists figured out 3 or 4 years ago that 50% of the water on the earth today predates our solar system. It's older than our earth. Isn't that crazy? Where did it come from? Why is it here? Because we needed it. God knew we needed it. When did it come? I don't know, and I don't care. How many other things will God supply from another time or dimension for you? That's how big God is, folks. He exists for you. God exists for you. God exists for you. God is here for you. And if you think of it for you alone, how much cooler is this world? Man, it calls you a fellow laborer with God. Can you have somebody better than God on your side, working with you, driving with you in that truck, riding on the bike with you, watching your six if you're in the military? There's nothing better. You see, at some point we believed a lie about ourselves and we cared more about what other people thought, so much so that we hid our gift. We concealed what made us radiate. You call it whatever you want. It's more than spirit, folks. What Adam and Eve lost is more than spirit. It was more than spirit. If you look at those 3 things that I mentioned earlier, he was afraid that he was to be exposed, so he hid. Isn't that what traps humanity? We're so concerned about everybody else. Religion just uses that against us, that you want to fit in so you don't ever break out of that mold. You only read what somebody tells you to read. That's craziness, folks. What do you like to read? What do you like to watch? If it helps you be the best you, then do it. Again, how do we get back up? And this is the kicker. How do we relocate and then dust off our gift to the world? Remember that the biggest battle we each face comes not from outside enemies, but from within. Our biggest battle is not from Al-Qaeda, ISIS, anything. That's not our biggest battle. You hear more about it, but what goes on inside your head? What limits have we placed on ourselves? That was the devious nature of the genius devil, to get us to hide our gift and to care. We hide it because we care what other people think about it. Some people are just afraid they're really going to succeed. And a lot of times as you start succeeding and you start really changing, people, your friends and family are going to try to pull you back because it makes them look bad. They realize that they have lived their whole life and never accomplished what you're about to do. Just keep moving, folks. Keep trudging. See, Solomon perceived this. Moses searched for it. David fought for it. Jonah swam for it. Ezekiel and Daniel dreamed it. John, the Apostle John, felt it. Paul preached it. And Jesus conquered it. And so can we. So can we. We can do the same works that he did, right? Even add something else there, doesn't it say? And greater works? That's crazy talk, folks. See, Paul wrote about this age-old human problem when he wrote, quote, "What I don't understand about myself is that which I decide one way, but then I act another, doing things I absolutely despise." End of quote. Romans 7:15. You ever done something that you ever got weak and in a weak moment did something that you regret doing. I hate doing that stuff. You think something, you say something wrong, you do something wrong. Get back up. You see, we all know deep down what we're really supposed to be doing, but when push comes to shove, most people cave and they just go with the flow. Like the old saying, a bird of a feather flocks together. It's because they're all going the same direction. If that's not the direction you're supposed to go, then don't do it. You're not going to be the loved bird. If you're heading north when everybody else is heading south. There's always turbulence, when you go against the grain. You see, this is the same thing that got Adam way back when. He might have thought, I know God supplied everything. And I know He supplied everything that ever going to need on this earth. Just like He does for all nature. But that shiny, manipulative being got me thinking about myself. I felt fear for the first time. I felt exposed. I feel like hiding instead of working toward my life goals. I'm going to bury it. I'm just going to bury it deep down and make excuses the rest of my life. Because if I don't try, I'll never fail. You see? And that's the way of the world. People don't live that gift. That's why it's so messed up. That's why they're so angry. That's why they kill people. Because they're afraid of their own freedom. They're afraid of true freedom. Adam got talked out of his calling. He got talked into looking within instead of to God. And this is the essence of fear. He allowed fear to stop his forward progress. See, fear is anything that keeps you from obtaining what is rightfully yours. Our fall always begins with fear. See, concerning fear, we can allow fear to either stop us or guide us. And this is the cool thing about fear. Fear can actually be helpful to you. Let me explain. Think of fear as like a compass with a magnetized needle. And that needle is going to point to magnetic north, right? You see, or you could call it true north. Fear is always going to find your true north. It's always going to find your magnetic north. It's always going to find where you're supposed to be, and it's going to attack it and attack it and attack it and attack it until you attack yourself. You see, one, fear will try to stop us at all costs from being who we are meant to be. Through self-doubt, through friends and family who like us the way we are. Through politics and religion, and through mainstream society, modern society. Number two, fear can also guide you to what's important. When we recognize that we're getting intense pushback for living our calling, our dream, our gift, rest assured we're heading in the right direction. Sometimes when the pressure's on you, you're not doing something wrong, you're doing something right. You're feeling turbulence. It's good. It's good. It's going to help guide you. You see, it's just funny because there's going to be no turbulence if you're just going the course of the world. You see, my daughter, since she was little, was a pretty good swimmer. Pretty good swimmer. She just loved it. She's like a dolphin. It's the only sport that she could ever beat her brother in. He was great in any sport he ever tried, but she could kick his ass in swimming, and probably still can. And so she got a job as a lifeguard, and worked in different pools, worked at the Air Force Academy for a number of years, worked for a lot of local pools and for the Y and all these different things. And even today works on a military base as a lifeguard. Well, in her time as a lifeguard, she's had 14 water rescues. 14. Now, no telling what might have happened to those children. They're all children, but how much different would their family be if they weren't there? Would it be different? How much different would the future be without those 14 individuals who will probably go on to have children of their own and grandchildren and great-grandchildren? How much different? But she is good at being a lifeguard, and it's made a difference. There's other things she may not be so good at, but she's very good lifeguard. There's things I'm not so good at, like being a clown. I hung that suit up at 4. But you get the point. Jesus nailed it and he mailed it. He packaged it and posted it. You see? I mean, Matthew 5 is called the Sermon on the Mount. It's full of wisdom on how to eradicate self-limiting fear by thought and repetitive action. I don't have time to read this. You see, verses 3 through 12 use the word blessed all the time. Blessed is the meek, blessed is this, and blessed is that. And but every time the word blessed appears, it should be translated extreme happiness. Extreme happiness. And for a fun study, maybe, look at these 8 blessings in Matthew 5 and then look at Matthew 23 and compare them to the 8 woes. Compare the 8 blessings to the 8 woes. It's a fun little study, which we're not going to do now. You see, like extremely happy are the spiritually poor, because the kingdom of heaven's theirs. Extremely happy are those who mourn, because they're going to be comforted. Extremely happy are the meek and gentle, because they're going to inherit the earth. Extremely happy are those who hunger and thirst for righteousness, because they're going to be filled. Extremely happy are the merciful, because they're going to show mercy. Extremely happy are those who are pure-hearted, because they're going to see God. Extremely happy are the peacemakers. They're going to be called the children of God. And extremely happy. Make yourself extremely happy, even if you're persecuted because of righteousness, because of living right, living your dream, living your call, because the kingdom of heaven is yours. That's the attitude. Make yourself happy. Decide to be happy. Decide to be happy. Extreme happiness is an attitude of amazing expectation. We're designed to be extremely happy. Don't good things happen when you're happy? Yeah, God knew this. It's the design of a human. So if you're not a happy soul, make yourself a happy soul. Try smiling. That's a good start. The last section I want to hit is what I call the you are section. And in verse 13, it says, you, beloved, are the salt of the earth. And then in verse 14, it says, you are the light of the world. And in that whole Sermon on the Mount, those are the only 2 things he says you are. The other ones is something you make yourself. This is what you are. You don't have to work for this. You are a light of the world. Got to let that light shine, though. You are the salt of the earth. What does that mean? It doesn't mean much to us, salt. I mean, we've all been taught different things, about salt. It's a covenant of this and that, and salt is good, and, don't let your salt lose its saltiness. If you think about it, chemically, salt cannot lose its saltiness. NaCl, sodium chloride. It's always going to be sodium chloride. You can water it down, but there's still going to be a certain amount of that sodium chloride in whatever it's watered down with. It can be corrupted with bad things, and then you might have to get rid of it. But salt is salt. A halite crystal is a cube. If I had a big cube like this and I broke it, it's going to break into 4 cubes. And I take one of those cubes, it's going to break into 4. And you go on down. Just get look at your salt shaker sometime and just break it down. It'll keep breaking down into cube, into 4, 4, 4, 4, 4. It's the way God designed it. You can't break it down. You see, you are the salt of the earth. Did you know that that salt is essential for life? Most of us know that. Animals made trails to salt licks. Hunters followed the animals. There was a time when salt was traded ounce for gold. You're worth your weight in gold. Jesus is saying in a sense here, everybody understood this. You were a preservative on what otherwise would be rotten. You preserve things. You see, Roman soldiers were at times paid their wages in salt. How would you like that? Their wage was salt. The term salary, S-A-L, means salt. The term salary comes from being paid with salt. Isn't that crazy? The term soldier has the word salt in it because, the S-O-L, it means salt. They were paid wages of salt. It sounds weird, but they could trade that for money. It was so lucrative. The Chinese at one time had coins, and they were just pressed into salt blocks. People traveled the world. French had wars over salt. It's just so important to society. Always has been, always will be. You are the salt of the world. You always have been important to this world, to this creation, and you always will be. You see, you are salt. You are precious. You are light. You are bright. You're costly. You're a preservative. You shine things up. Adam fell, and we fell because we allowed ourselves to fear. Fear of what others think make us hide our light. They make us water down who we really are. And the dread of what others think makes us stop pursuing our life's calling. Like every animal in nature, put in the necessary work. Put in the necessary energy expenditure. And care little about what other people think about you or what you think they're thinking about you. And you will be able to, after whatever fall you've taken, to get back up. God bless.